All right, so in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience renting an RV for a week, coming from someone who didn't have any prior experience to RVs. I'd really like to take a trip to visit all 48 states, and I feel like an RV would be the best way to do that. But before I kind of pulled the trigger and did that, I thought it'd be a good idea to rent one and just see what it's like to live in an RV, what it's like to travel around in an RV. So we rented a C-Class Jayco Melbourne RV, which is one that you drive. It's not like a pull along, and it's a smaller end. I knew I wanted something that was kind of smaller so parking would be a little bit easier, and I'm leaning towards, if I do buy one, getting one that you could drive. If I were gonna stay in places for like a long period of time, I would probably maybe consider getting one of the pull-alongs, just because, you know, they're a lot cheaper and then you could have your vehicle to get around. But I thought, since the trip that I have planned in my head to travel around the country, it would be kind of moving day to day from state to state. So I thought that this would be kind of a better idea to do the Class C. So I'll do a walkthrough of the RV. We still have it. We got back home from our 7-day trip yesterday, and I still have the RV, so I thought I would just do a walkthrough and just kind of talk from someone who's not familiar with the RV's perspective as to what we liked and what we didn't like, and kind of give a review of this specific RV. There are a lot of videos on YouTube. I watched a bunch of videos about RV life and RV tips and things like that before we took the trip, and I also watched a lot of videos about this specific model. But I thought with all the videos I found, it was mostly like dealerships that were just more or less walking through, talking about the specs. But I think if someone's thinking about buying one of these RVs and wants to know a little bit more about like practically how it works, some of the tips we got in terms of like packing and storage and things like that, I'm going to talk a little bit about that with my walkthrough, because we definitely kind of learned a lot along the way during the week that we went. So I will go through and kind of give you a walkthrough and talk a little bit about, yeah, some of the features and everything, and what we liked and what we didn't like about this specific RV. Okay, before I get started with the tour, I want to say one more thing. Again, I'm totally new to RVs. I don't have any other points of comparison to this, so I don't know if some of the things I'm going to talk about are like gonna be similar across all RV models. And also, if I say something wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. So yeah, maybe I may end up saying something wrong, but I'm gonna try to give as accurate information as I can. So okay, now I'll get started on the tour. All right, so here's what it looks like from the outside with the slides and everything pushed in. I don't know if anybody has any advice on like the best model for the chassis. So this one was Mercedes, and I think I heard online that the Mercedes was a pretty good one compared to some of the others. So we didn't have any trouble with like the engine and everything driving. And like I said, this is a smaller one, so it wasn't really too hard to drive, but it still had plenty of space for 2 people for sure. The slide is right here, and it slides out about 2 feet. I'll show you that here in a minute. I guess I'll just do a walk around real quick. So the front of it is pretty much like a van, and then the back of it right here in this first compartment, you have the generator, and it does have a generator. It runs off of propane. I'll show you the propane tank here in a minute. The guy at the place said that it wouldn't run for like a super long time. If we were like boondocking, I don't think it would run for a whole day. I think some models may have a diesel generator, but this one has propane. Oh, by the way, this is a 2002 model, so it's not a brand new one. In this storage compartment, these are hard to open, but in this storage compartment is where we have our water hose for the sewage hookup, and then I've just got an extension cord. There is some extra storage space down in here, so you can store a couple of things here too. Oh, the person who rented this before us actually had a little bit of a wreck. They hit a pole at the gas station apparently, so some of these are a little bit damaged. I think that's why they're a little bit harder to open. But yeah, it's easy to drive, but you've got to swing out wide and be sure to look and make sure you don't hit anything on the side. This is where all of the water stuff is and the hookup stuff. So let's see. They've got a light switch that turns on a little light if you're doing anything at night. This has a hose, so there's like a little outside shower if you need to rinse anything off outside. This is where your water hose will hook up right here. These are the tanks for your black water and gray water. So you'll leave them pushed in and then pull it out whenever you need to dump it. I was a little bit nervous about all this stuff, but this was actually pretty easy. Since we're not hooked up to water right now, I've got it set to, so where this is pointing, I've got it pointed at 3 and then up at 5. So that's just normal. So when we weren't hooked up, we would leave it on that. But if we hooked up to water somewhere, I put it on 2 and 6. So just move this up to 2 and move this over to 6. And so that was pretty easy. We would just hook up the water here and turn these and then turn on the water, and we were good to go. I was a little nervous about all the hookups and everything, but it was actually pretty easy. The water hookup after the first day, we got that, and the sewage was really easy. So down here is where you would hook up that water pipe, that sewage pipe. And then once you've got it hooked up and put into the thing you need to put it in to dump it, we would pull this to let the black tank loose, and then pull this to let the gray water run through. And I read online that's the best way to do it. So after you run your black water, the gray water kind of flushes out the tube and cleans it a little bit. So that was pretty straightforward. I guess we didn't use this, but it looks like, I know at some RV parks they have like a cable hookup, and so that would be, I guess, for the cable hookup. And it also has this, so if you're like boondocking, I guess, and you weren't connected to the water, you would turn this on to turn on your water pump. There's also a switch on the inside too. And that's pretty much all that's in there. I don't know what this is, but we didn't use that. We just used this to hook up our water. And then here's where your electric cord will hook in. And then we've got our electric cord stored over here. So it's a 30 amp hookup, but they also gave us some adapters in case we needed to hook up to a 50 amp somewhere. And then also this, if you needed to hook up to like a regular outlet. But I think he said we wouldn't have the power on this to run like the big things like the air conditioner, but we didn't ever try it. But I think that's an option if you have an adapter. I had watched some videos online, and a lot of people said you need to have a surge protector. So I went ahead and got this myself, and this worked really well. So you just plug it into the outlet and then plug the power cord into here. I don't know, this worked pretty well for us. And then I also was watching online that they said you need a water regulator, because some places, I guess, their water pressure is higher and you don't want to blow out the water pipes in the RV. So we got this, and so this just hooks up to the water spigot, and then this will tell you what the water pressure is, and then you can use a flathead screwdriver to turn this little thing up here and kind of put the water pressure for whatever you want it. And yeah, this worked pretty well for us too. I guess that's all that's down there. Oh, I'll take my screwdriver. So yeah, the power cord in, pretty easy. And so that's all the compartments on this side. And then around the back, we didn't hook anything up to the back of it, but it does have this. And then I guess this is the power to hook up your lights on if you're gonna pull a vehicle or something. And then over here on this side, you have the hot water heater, which we didn't mess with this. The guy just showed it to us. So here's the hot water heater. The hot water worked just fine in the RV. So we didn't have to mess with that. This, I don't know what's in there. This is like some extra storage, I guess. We didn't ever look in here really. But that's there too. And then over here is our propane tank. And so we didn't use the generator very much, and so we didn't run out of propane, but I guess this is where you would fill the propane. I think we may go and try to fill it up tomorrow, and just see what the process is like to fill up a propane tank. But that's there. And that's about it on the outside. So I will, oh, and then there's the awning. So they've got a pretty big awning up there that rolls out, and the controls are on the inside. So I will show you that here in a second. And there's Monty. All right, so getting into the driver's seat, I mean, it really just feels, it's similar to a van. This is what it looks like on the inside. And I mean, it just looks like a big van in here in terms of the front part. It does have this little screen right here, but everything is pretty basic up here, really. Let me flip this around and I'll talk a little bit about what we noticed about this front part. All right, so like I mentioned before, because of the size and everything, we really liked the drivability of it. If you've driven like a large truck or a large van before, it wasn't too much different from that. So it was really easy to drive and kind of get around. The first thing, I wish that it had a bigger like screen. The screen was a little bit small, but it worked. Like, we could still bring up our GPS and everything, but I guess I'm just used to, in like my car, the screen is a little bit bigger. But it was fine. It worked okay. One thing we did like was it had a rear camera, and you know, so backing up is easier. That's probably standard on most newer RVs, I guess. And it also had some cameras on the side, so if you turn on your blinker, it will put the camera on the screen so you can kind of see what's to the side of you. I mean, obviously you can't really see behind you unless you're backing up and you've got the rear camera on, but it does have those cameras on the side to kind of help when you're turning. And I'll show you this. The first thing immediately that we didn't really care for was the seats. The seats are comfortable enough, but they're not power seats. And I was like, okay, we can deal with that, but I'll show you kind of one of the issues we ran into with the seats, but I'll show you like how the seats work. All right, so like I said, these aren't power seats, which, you know, is not that big of a deal. So if you want to move it forward and back, there's a handle right here. That wasn't a big deal. The backrest, if you want to move it forward or back, you have to turn this knob, which again was not a huge deal, but it was a little bit hard to move it forward and back and get it adjusted, but not a big deal until you want to turn the seats around. So these seats do rotate, which I thought was really cool. But I just had a couple issues with rotating it, so I will show you that. All right, so I'm on the passenger side now. So to rotate the seat, there is this lever down here. Can you see it? Yeah, so here's the one to move it forward and back, and here's the one to rotate. And you just have to push this lever, or pull the lever, and then the seat will turn. It's not that hard to turn once you're in it, but the issue is, if you want to turn it, you have to make sure that it's, I think, forward enough, and then you also have to adjust this like pretty much all the way forward. So again, not a big deal. Like, it only takes like a minute or two to get it, you know, moved up to rotate. But I just wish they had like power options for that, but maybe it's hard to put it in there with the rotation. Like, I don't know, maybe that causes some complications, but you know, I just kind of wish we had power seats, but not a big deal for that. But otherwise, I thought the front was good. You've got plenty of cup holders. It does have a thing there, so that's where I plugged in my phone. And then we also found at one point later on that it does have some additional storage up here. Got a little handle here. I like to grab that sometimes. Oh, here's another thing. Up here, when you turn on your lights inside, be careful not to push this button, because that will call the emergency line. I was up here trying to turn the lights on one night and I accidentally pushed that SOS button, and you know, so I feel like that should I mean, I guess that's a good place if you got in a wreck, but yeah, just be careful not to push that emergency button when you don't want to. But yeah, otherwise everything else was good. There's the emergency brake, and there's a lot of space down here. We had a little container down here that had like snacks and stuff that we wanted to keep up here up front. But yeah, so that is the front part. Let me take you in the back. Okay, so this was another thing we immediately had trouble with. Even the girl at the dealership that was in charge of rentals had some trouble getting this door open. So like the first day we were kind of climbing in the cab and then opening the door, because it's really, even if it's unlocked, we kept thinking, is it locked? Oh, it opened easily right there. But pretty much most of the trip, like, it was hard. Yeah, now that I've closed it all the way, like we were just pulling and we were like, okay, I don't want to break the door. But what we found is if we put pressure up here and pull the handle, like you don't have to put a whole lot of pressure, and then it opens easily. So that was one thing. The door was a little bit hard to open at first, but we figured it out. So let me get it open and go inside. All right, so you've got the door open and here's what the door looks like. Just a couple things. Maybe this is probably standard on most RVs, but there is a lock option here. So if you slide this up and you close the door, then it'll be locked. And then we just leave it unlocked during the day. And then there's also this kind of like deadbolt thing that you can lock at night too. And then if you need to unlock it, there should be a key and you can just unlock them here. It also had this screen door, so when you push down on this, the screen door will close, and then there's this plastic piece you can slide over, so you don't get any bugs in or anything. So I thought that was a pretty nice feature there. There is also a step. Ooh, not focusing. So there's a step that comes down. Whenever you drive, the step will automatically come up, so you don't really have to mess with that. There's a button over here for the power step, and the guy told us we could just leave it off because it'll come up and down whenever we move. But I think if you have it turned on, it will come up anytime you close the door, I believe. But we didn't use it, we just left it off, and that worked just fine for us. So yeah, if you come up the steps, this is what it looks like. Let me turn on some lights with the slide in. So I mean, it does look a little bit cramped if you're using it with the slide inside, but still a little bit of space. So let me show you how to open up the slide real quick. So there's a control panel up here, and here's the button for the slide. So extend or retract. So if you hit extend, this will just slide out. And then there's also a button for the extend over here by the bed. So you can extend or retract it over here as well. But yeah, so everything just kind of slides back. And I'll show, oop, I hit it the wrong way. I hit slide. Yeah, I guess you'd want it out. So yeah, so that'll take it out. Okay, so before I extend it out, I just wanted to talk about the space that's in here. So even with the slide in, you still have enough room, because there was a couple times that we had the slide in and we were stopped somewhere and I needed to come back here and get something. There was still plenty of space to like get in most of these drawers and everything, and open the fridge up, and even, you know, I used the bathroom with the slide in. So there's still quite a bit of space in here to work with the slide in, but I'll finish sliding it out and show you what the whole thing looks like. All right, so here's how it looks with everything retracted, and even though it's only a couple of feet, like, it really opens up the area, and you really feel, I felt like I had like plenty of space in here. But yeah, once you slide it out, really the only thing left is to just flip this bed down. The bed folds up, and then you just flip it down, and so now you've got, I don't know what size this is. This maybe like, looks pretty big, like a queen size bed. So you've got pretty big space in here. And then here's how the rest of it looks, you know, pretty opened up. Then I'll just show you again. Here's the bathroom. I mean, it's not a huge bathroom, but I feel like for this size of RV, to me, it seemed like pretty decent size. There was plenty of room here in the shower, and it's got like a little RV toilet, but I think this may be pretty standard for an RV. I mean, it works pretty much like a regular toilet. You just have to hold this down a little bit to let the water run in. And then if you want to flush it all the way, just put it all the way down. So that was pretty straightforward to use. So yeah, that's just kind of the basic. One other thing, you've got this up here, which I've got it folded down right now, but it's a whole extra bunk space up there for somebody to sleep, maybe even 2 people. It's actually a pretty good size. And you've got the ladder that comes with it, so you can get up there. The one thing I didn't like about this was probably my least favorite thing about the whole RV, was these theater seats. I think most models don't come with these theater seats. A lot of videos that I watched, it actually had like a table there with like some bench seats on the side, and I would have much rather preferred that. I was not a huge fan of these theater seats. They just were really big and kind of in the way, and they weren't super comfortable. It wasn't super easy to recline them, and I would have much rather preferred like an actual table over these. Like, it was fine, like for our 7-day trip, like we made it work and it was totally fine, but I personally was not a fan of these theater seats at all. I think next I'm going to talk about the storage, so I'll go over that real quick. All right, so storage in here. For our trip for just a week, I felt like there was plenty of storage. Like, we even had some extra storage space left over. So over here you have a little box above the door, and these all close pretty tightly. You might, my friend smashed their finger in this, so you gotta watch out because they snap shut so they can stay shut while we're driving. But I just put like some bug spray and random stuff up in that one. Over the kitchen we had some storage where we just put like chips and food items and things like that up there. There's a lot of storage under the sink, so we stored some of like our propane or lighter fluid, trash bags. So there's quite a bit of space down there. And then you've got these 2 drawers over here, so we had like our utensils and plates and, you know, different random like kitchen items and stuff in here. Where else? Okay, on this side above the theater seats, there's also some of those storage bins. We didn't really use those. They've got this pull out here. This is probably the hardest one to open. So you could put some things in there in that pull out. And then it's also got a pretty good sized closet. You've got some mirrors on the closet. Oh, here, you've got the mirrors here. And then when you go inside, you've got a bar to hang your stuff on. I don't know if this comes with all of them, but this was like a shade to put in the front of the van. And then it also has, I'm not really sure what this seat is for, but it also has a little table. So here's the bar for the table, and then here's the tabletop. And you can actually put that table here. So I guess if you had the seats flipped around, you could have a little table there, but we never actually put it in. And then yeah, so this was plenty for our clothes, because not only do you have the closet to hang stuff, but then you also have this drawer here, and then this bigger drawer down here. So if it's just 2 people, honestly, I think that's plenty of storage space, or at least it was for us for that. I also found a couple of extra places that we could store some things. So over here we had a couple of cases of water, and so if you lift up the bed, I know in some RVs there's storage under the bed, but this one actually doesn't. I think the breaker box is there. I think some of the electrical equipment and stuff is there, and there's a fuse box. But we did find as long as you had something that was shorter than what this was, then this mattress would just slide over the top of it. So we stored like some cases of water and stuff down there. And so that worked even when we had the slide pulled. And then, I don't know if you're supposed to, but there's a couple cases where we just left some stuff up there when we were driving, and they didn't seem to move around at all. I don't know if you're supposed to store things up there because there is the risk of them falling, but we didn't have any problem. We left like a couple of our camping chairs up there and didn't have any problem with that. So that is maybe a possibility to store some things when you're going. Also, we had like our Starlink, and so there's this behind the theater chairs, there's this little shelf right here, and then there was a couple times where we left some stuff up here whenever we were moving, and that was fine. I mean, you could also leave things in the seats or on top of the bed when the bed's folded up. There's a couple times we just threw some things over there while we were driving. I mean, you know, just think about what's going to move around or whatever, I guess. And then also, you know, when the slide is pulled in, you do have a little bit of room down here. You've got a couple feet of room down here that you could leave stuff in the floor. Again, you know, you just want to think about what's going to roll around or whatever while you're moving. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the storage. And then you've got the stuff underneath, so you could put like your camping chairs or whatever underneath as well. So yeah, the storage was pretty adequate for what we needed it for sure. All right, next I want to talk about the lights. So there is a switch right here whenever you come in the door. There's also a switch down here that says main power, and the guy told us to just leave that on, that it would be fine. So we just left that on, but I think if you hit that, that'll cut off the power to everything. But even when it's not hooked up, I guess there's a battery. So even when it hasn't been hooked up to anything, the lights still work, the slides still work. So I think that main power keeps that powered with a battery. But this is the light switch for the overhead lights. But then there's also some light switches up here. And actually, this was probably my favorite. So this one here on the left, it has these lights up top. And so that's just not quite as harsh as those overhead lights. And then there's also this little light that just goes over the sink. And then the microwave also has a light. Oh, I can't turn it on, but there's like a little microwave light under that. Some of the appliances will only work if you have it plugged into power. So the AC and the microwave, probably, and the outlets, you have to be plugged up to actual power. They don't run off of the battery. But yeah, but the lights and the slides still seem to work, even if it's not hooked up to anything and the generator's not on. Of course, you can run the generator to get the power too. What else? Outlets. So that was one thing. We didn't really have enough outlets to plug in everything that we wanted. So you do have 2 outlets here. Maybe there's some more that I'm missing, but there's 2 right here next to the kitchen thing, and we brought a little coffee maker with us, so we plugged it into that. And then there's also these outlets under the bed that you can plug into, and then there are some up here. And we didn't have a TV installed here, but I guess you could put a TV there, and there's like a cable outlet there. So that was only outlets. We found 6 outlets. So we did end up buying a power strip, a surge protector, and so we plugged it into that just so we could have a little bit more power to the thing. Let me think about what I want to show you next. All right, so I don't think I talked about the little kitchen area. It's pretty small. Like, I think if you had a family in here, this might be kind of small, but we were at campsite, so we were cooking outside. We didn't even use the I want to call it stovetop, but it's not a stove. But Monty, move. He didn't come with us. He's just checking things out right now. So yeah, it's got these 2 burners, and they are propane, and so you could just turn this on and use a lighter to light those, but we did not use that. And then, like I said, we've got the microwave, which I think it's convection, so you could maybe use that for more than microwaving. And then we've got the sink. The sink was fine. It has this cover over it, and then it was a pretty deep sink. I mean, it worked pretty well like a sink, so that was good enough for us. And then it also has this, we never used this because I feel like if you have it pulled out, it kind of gets in the way of the door, but it's also got this little bit of counter space you can flip up. But yeah, that's just the main thing about the kitchen. Like I said, it had plenty of storage for everything we needed for our kitchen stuff. But yeah, I mean, I thought the kitchen was fine for us. What else? So I guess next I'll talk a little bit about the control panels we have here by the door, up top and bottom. So up top here, I know enough to know what we used, but I'm not sure about everything. So the guy that showed us this before we rented it, he said we could just leave the water heater on electric, but I guess they also have the option to run off of propane. Here's the water pump. So there's the switch outside by the water hookup that you could turn the water on. So, but if you're, you know, not hooked up to water, you would want to turn this water pump on to run the water in the RV. You don't need to use this. I guess this is for when it's cold and you need to heat your tanks. I already showed you this. That's where we extend out the slide. Over here with these, this is where you check everything. So if you push this battery button, it will show you how much battery you have, fresh water, black water tank, and the gray water tank. And then up here is how you would run the generator. So if you just hold down the start button, that will kick on the generator to run. So pretty straightforward, not too bad. And then down here, let's see. So I already talked about the main power. I think I already mentioned the power step. This is for your awning. So if you want to take it out, you would push out and that will extend it out. And then here is your light outside. I'll show you that here in a second. So this has some pretty good lights outside and you can adjust the brightness of it over here. This thing I really liked, and I don't know if all of them have this on it because I saw some videos where they did and some where they didn't. I really love this. So it's a auto leveler. So if you push power and then you hold down auto level, it will automatically level out the RV. And then when you're ready to go, you just hit retract and it pulls up the posts that are underneath. And I think we never forgot to do this, but I want to say the guy said if we didn't, like if we turned on the vehicle, then it would automatically pull those up. So but yeah, I really like this. It made it really easy. And I'll actually show you what they look like underneath. So there you can see the two in the front, these metal poles. So when you turn it on, it will put those down and then it'll spend a couple minutes like adjusting everything. And then there's two in the back too. So there was only one time that we didn't use it. The guy said like we probably wouldn't need to use it as long as we were on pretty level ground, but I just felt more comfortable using it. But yeah, so I really liked that feature for sure. I don't think I mentioned the fridge. The other thing that I really liked about this was the fridge. So when I do camping and stuff, I'm used to ice chest and constantly filling it with ice and dumping it. So it was definitely nice to have a fridge. And I don't know what sizes are in most RVs, but I felt like this was a pretty good size. Not full size, but it was a good one. It definitely held all of our food for the week that we needed, kept it cold. And then it also has a freezer up here. And one thing I noticed is this runs, I guess, off the battery power. I'm not sure, but it always kept running even when we were like stopped and we weren't hooked up to power. So our stuff always stayed cold. So that was pretty convenient. And then I don't think I talked about the storage in the bathroom. Not a lot of storage in the bathroom, but there's a little bit. So you've got this little cabinet here, and they gave us some toilet paper. And then there's a little bit under here, and I put some towels in there. There's this little one here. It's very small, but you could put some things in there. And then it also has the medicine cabinet, and it fit everything that we needed in there. So I don't know, if you don't pack too much stuff, you can definitely hold it all in the bathroom. And then there's the shower hooks in there, or for the towels, and that worked. There's also a bar up here, and I'm not sure exactly what it's used for, but we used it to hang up our like swimsuits and stuff. Anything that was wet, we hung it up there. The shower was nice, the hot water was good, the water pressure was good with our regulator and everything. Also has a fan up here, and then the switches are right here inside the door. So that was good. Let me see what else. Okay, so entertainment. It did have a TV, and this thing is on the swivel arm, so you can like pull it out. So if you're sitting in these theater seats, you could pull out the TV and see it. I think you could also hook up an HDMI if you had a laptop, but we didn't mess with that. We did bring a laptop with us, and we just kind of set it up on the kitchen area while we sat in these theater seats. And we got Starlink for this trip because we wanted to try out how we would have Wi-Fi for the trip. And I'm not sure if we hooked it up, you know, how most people would, but we had to run the cord outside. So this window here, we just opened this window and we kind of ran the cord through here. And Starlink was, I think it worked pretty well, but it was kind of hit or miss. I don't know, I guess I could recommend it because it worked well enough for us to have Wi-Fi at most of our places, but it wasn't like the best Wi-Fi. It definitely wasn't like super fast, but we were able to stream some stuff off of Amazon Prime, and so we did do that for most of the nights. We just kind of relaxed and watched some stuff on Amazon. But yeah. Oh, and here's the AC. Like I said, you have to be hooked up for it to run, and I might turn on the generator here in a second. And oh, I just found another light. We never used this one, so it looks like there's a light switch up here to light that up too. Also, there's seat belts. At first we weren't sure if there were seat belts for these seats, but we did find them back behind the seat. And there's also a little bit of storage in here. Hated these cup holders. We were drinking out of water bottles and they wouldn't fit in these two cup holders here. They're a little bit small. They did fit in here though. But yeah, maybe I will turn on the generator and let you see how that process goes. All right, so like I said before, here's the generator button, and I just hold that in and you can hear it kicking on. And then it will take kind of a couple of minutes for it to fully kick in. Here in a second, you'll be able to hear the air conditioning come on. And it's pretty loud. I know generators are loud, but like if you're gonna use the generator, it's gonna be pretty loud for sure. Yeah, so there, everything just clicked on. So the air just kicked on, and then the microwave kicked on, and now our sockets will work. So yeah, it was pretty straightforward and easy to use. Also a fire extinguisher. I can't think of what I'm missing. Oh, let me turn around the seats real quick and show you what that looks like. Okay, so there's what it looks like with the ladder attached. I will say I crawled up there a couple times and it's pretty cramped for like a full-grown adult, but I mean, definitely if you had kids, that would be plenty of room for them to sleep. So here's what the chair looks like when it's spun around. And so I think both of these will rotate if you needed more seats facing in. Also, I don't think I mentioned that this part flips up. So you can just flip that back. And I guess it's just to give you more headroom in that area, but we honestly kept it flipped down for most of the time. And so yeah, but that's that. Oh, last thing, curtains. I actually really like the curtain options. This is probably standard for most RVs. Oh, also there's a light switch up here for these lights if someone was in here and they needed some lights, and then there's a window to look out too. But then you got these curtains. Oh, I guess I got the curtain stuck in the slide. Okay, got these curtains up here that you could pull across to give you a little privacy up there up top. And then also we used this on most nights because the light from the microwave, you can see when the thing's on, you've got this green light from the microwave that shines. So there's this track up here so you can have the curtain to give you some privacy around the bed. And then there's also a curtain right here that spreads across here. So there's like a Velcro thing on this curtain, and there's two little places here that you hook it on this side and this side, and then so you can have a curtain run all the way across. And we use that like every day. We put it up at night so people couldn't see in, and yeah, it was pretty easy to use. So yeah, I like the curtains. The mini blinds, I don't know if these are the ones that come standard. This was broken when we first got this, so this blind wouldn't come up, but the rest of them, you just kind of push up. Well, I need two hands for this one, but you just push up or just pull down to get the mini blinds down. So I think that's everything. So yeah, overall plenty of space for two people. I really liked it. Everything basically except for these theater seats, for these theater seats. But yeah, I guess the awning. Sorry, I know this is so random. So I already showed you the awning is up there. The button is down here. So you just push out and it will start to roll out. We didn't really use this too much. Honestly, the way we were parked, most places it didn't really give us that much extra shade. Like, I think depending on where the sun is, it could be useful. And we were also worried it stormed one night when we were in here, and so I heard we didn't want like the wind to break the awning. So we kept it in most of the time. But yeah, but the lights, so this exterior light, that's what it looks like. And these are pretty bright at night. So yeah, we wouldn't have needed to bring any extra lights to hang up like some people do, because this gave us plenty of light, and you can make it brighter or not so bright. So yeah, those were good. And yeah, I guess that's everything. All right, so there's one last thing I forgot to talk about, and that is how to fill the gas. So your gas tank is actually right here, and when the door is closed, nobody can get to your gas tank. So that's pretty easy. You just open your door and then flip this back, and you got your gas tank. And then if you want to shut your door, you can shut it and still fill your gas. So that's where that is. All right, so that's my pretty long-winded review of the 2022 Jayco Melbourne RV. Overall, you know, coming from someone who doesn't have any prior experience with RVs, I really liked it. I thought it was really easy to drive and get around in. Everything was, you know, pretty simple to figure out. I just had to watch a couple of YouTube videos to get an idea of how to do the hookups and, you know, everything. And the guy at the rental place explained it to us within like 20 minutes. And I think all of that, you know, how to run the RV was pretty straightforward. I think the size was great for 2 people. I could definitely feel comfortable traveling in it for an extended period of time. I love the refrigerator. I didn't try the cooktop, but I think that would be fine. We had a little like propane grill that we took and just cooked outside, so that worked out pretty well. The only, you know, the main thing that I didn't like was that theater seating, but I know that there's a lot of different layouts to choose from with different RVs, and I liked this layout aside from the theater seating, so we would look at probably something different for that. The only other thing that I wish we would have tried to figure out, or what would have been better, is if we had brought bikes or something with us, because, you know, with this, since we didn't pull a car, and, you know, because, you know, if we wanted to go somewhere else, we would have had to, you know, drive the whole RV with us. So I think it would have been useful to have some bikes, and I know that we could get like bike racks or something there. We could pull a car with it. I just don't know with the trip that I've had planned that we would need to pull a car, because I'm planning, you know, on this big trip to move from place to place. So yeah, but it definitely would have been useful at some of the campgrounds because they were just so big. It would have been nice to have like a bike or a little scooter or something to get around. So that would be one thing I would think about. But yeah, overall I really liked it. This one is actually the place we got it from. They sell RVs, and so they rented this one, but it's also for sale. But I mean, the price tag is just so high. They're selling it used for $90,000. And I think a brand new one, like a 2024 model, is like $164,000. And that's just a lot of money. I know that we could get like a pull behind trailer for quite a bit cheaper. I just don't know if that would be a little bit more complicated, having to like park it and, you know, get unhooked and get everything set up that way. But I talked to a couple people and they said that that's not too hard. It's pretty simple, especially with the newer like fifth wheels and stuff. So I don't know. I am still leaning towards the Class C, and I really like this one. We'll just have to look at some different options for buying it. So I don't know if you guys have any recommendations for what's the best type of Class C to buy. I want one with a good resale value, because my plan is to buy one and maybe keep it for like a year or two, and then maybe try to resell it. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely still want to travel in one. I personally, based on this one experience, would recommend it if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. But yeah, I guess that's it. Hopefully this was helpful for anyone thinking about buying this specific RV. But yeah, maybe I'll post an update if we decide to rent another one, or if we decide to pull the trigger and go ahead and buy one. But I guess that's it.